guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad you guys stopped by today because today we are going to be doing a Nightmare Before Christmas themed project. We are going to be doing a little sculpture of Zero, the ghost dog from the movie. Now before we get started guys, I wanted to thank all of you for subscribing and supporting my channel. Because of you, we're going to get a new camera soon. This is going to be my last video on my old camera, and the next video is going to have a lot better picture quality. I'm going to be setting up a new area to record in, so it'll look a lot more professional, and I'm really excited. I hope you guys like everything that I change. Hopefully we can do some new projects because of this, and it'll be a lot of fun. Anyways, let's get started. Okay guys, the first thing we're going to start with is getting the base ready for us to sculpt on. So I have this little wooden base, and I'm going to cover it in a layer of tinfoil. Now you'll notice that I have a little hole drilled into it. I'm going to use that by putting a wire into it and adding a little bit more support to the clay piece. Now what I'm sculpting for the base of our sculpture is going to be Zero's tombstone. It kind of looks like a little doghouse and it's really cute. So what I did is I took a lump of tinfoil and I kind of squared it up. It doesn't have to be a perfect square, it just has to be kind of a rough idea of a square. And then I pushed that onto the little wire that we have sticking out of the base. And then you'll just need to start covering it up all in clay. Once I have the walls of the tombstone all clayed and smoothed, I'm going to add some clay to the top and start tapering it up to make it look like a little roof. For the details on the front of Zero's tombstone, it's pretty simple. You just have a little doorway to a doggy house, and then it has a little dog skull sculpted in the middle of that. So for that, just take a little ball of clay, put some eye holes in it, and then maybe add a little bit of clay for his ears, and you're pretty much done. The only other details on the front of the sculpture is going to be his name kind of scratched above the doorway. And it's not a fancy font or anything, so you could just use a little scratchy tool. For the roof of the gravestone, I just rolled out some clay nice and flat and cut out a rectangle, and I placed it on top and kind of pinched it to go with the roof shape. To make the little shingles for the roof, it's also really simple. I just rolled out some clay into some noodles, and then I cut little slices of the noodles to make kind of like an oval shape, and then I just kind of layered them on top of the roof. Now for the top of the roof, since we need a way of adding Zero to the piece, I'm going to take a piece of wire, a pretty long piece of wire, bend it up a little bit, and we're going to push that into the top of the roof. So later on we can actually put Zero at the very top of it and make it look like he's flying over his grave. The last thing I did to the roof was I added a little cross to the very top of it. I kind of put it against the wire that we added so that it has a little bit more extra support. And then lastly, I want to add a little fence around his gravestone, so I took little pieces of wire and then I just kind of pushed them in randomly in places. Now the only other clay piece we need to make is Zero's head. The rest of his body I'm actually going to make out of fabric. So for his head, I took a ball of clay and I rolled it out to make a kind of cone shape. And then I put this on the end of a wooden dowel so that we could handle it a lot easier while adding the details. I used a tool to push in some eye sockets for his face, and then for his mouth I rolled out some clay nice and flat, cut out a simple shape, and put that at the bottom of his mouth. And then for his nose, I put a little ball of clay at the end of his snout, and I sculpted the details for a tiny little jack-o'-lantern. It's kind of hard to see in the movie, but his nose is actually a little pumpkin. Lastly, I just put a strip of clay around his neck for his collar. Now all of our clay is going to go in the oven for roughly 45 minutes at 275 Fahrenheit. The gravestone I did take off of the wooden base for safety reasons. I just didn't want wood in my oven, and it was a lot safer to do that. Once our clay is out of the oven and has cooled, I'm going to start working more on the little fence around the gravestone. So I'm going to take some thinner wire and wrap it around the little posts that we have and connect them all together. Then I'm going to take my hot glue gun and I'm going to glue the gravestone to the wooden base. Now for Zero's body, like I said, I'm going to make it out of fabric, so I have these little patterns right here. I drew them out on my fabric, and we're going to take our sewing machine and follow along these lines. Once we're done sewing, we're going to cut off all of our extra fabric, and then we're going to flip our fabric right side out. Now I'm going to add some wire framing to the fabric so that they can help hold their shape. So for the ears, I just took a piece of wire, bent it in half, twisted the end, and pushed it inside. We're going to do the same thing to the body, just on a larger scale. Now the last step to making sure that the body holds its shape is I'm going to actually put some Elmer's glue and water it down. We're going to put our pieces in the Elmer's glue water, and we're going to shape them the way we want them, lay them somewhere to dry, and then they'll harden into the right shape. Okay, we're finally ready to start painting, and we're going to work on the gravestone first. I'm going to prime it with a layer of black paint, let that dry, and then I'm going to be using some bluish gray and some whites to add highlights to it. It's really simple. Now with the wires that we have, like for the fence and where we're going to connect Zero, you might have to do a few layers of black to have the paint stick to the metal. Now for Zero's face, we're going to paint it all white, let that dry, and then we're going to go over the details with some black. So I'm going to fill in the eye holes with black, we're going to paint his pumpkin black, and we're also going to do the little creases in his smile. Now once that's dried, I'm going to go over his pumpkin with an orange, not too heavily though. I want the little smile on the jack-o'-lantern to show through, and I don't want to put orange paint in that. Lastly, I'm just going to paint his collar red. Now I have a lot of you guys asking how I apply the resin and what type of resin I use, so I'm going to go over that real quick. So this is the brand of resin that I use. It's a crystal clear casting resin. I just get it at my craft store. Make sure to be careful because this brand does come in a white, and you want to make sure you get the clear kind. Now to apply the resin, I use these cheap little brushes. They actually have plastic bristles. I just get them in the kiddie section and I buy them in bulk because I throw them away. The reason I like these and not normal paint brushes that have hair bristles is because if a hair falls off of your brush, you're going to get it stuck in your resin, and then you're not going to really get it off. It's going to be a pain in the butt. So I like using these because I can just use them really fast and then throw them away. Now to mix the resin, it comes with these two different bottles. One is an activator and the other one I believe is the resin itself. And this type of brand wants you to do equal parts of both. Make sure to read the instructions on your resin because you might pick up a kind that requires different amounts. So I'm going to mix this resin up and I'm going to let it cure for about 5 minutes. You'll know your resin is ready when you start stirring it and you don't see little creases or twirls in it. It'll be really nice and clear. You might have bubbles, but that's normal. So I'm just going to use my brush and apply a layer of resin over everything. Once we have it all covered, we're going to set our pieces somewhere that can be left alone overnight. I do recommend checking on them an hour to 2 hours after you resin them to make sure if something is like dripping, you can catch the drip and kind of wipe it off. Otherwise, it'll be too hard and you'll have a permanent drip on your piece. So I just kind of recommend keeping an eye on it. It's the next day and all of our pieces are nice and dry and we can start putting our sculpture together. So I'm going to start with Zero's head. I actually forgot to put holes in the back of his head for his ears to go, so I'm just going to drill those real quick. And then I'm going to take the wire that's sticking out of the fabric ear, I'm going to put some Elmer's glue on it, and we're going to push that into the hole. Now I'm going to add Zero's body to the wire sticking out of the gravestone. To do this, I have a piece of wire sticking out of it already from the frame, and I'm going to take another thin piece of wire and wrap this along with the wire that is sticking out of the gravestone. Lastly, we're going to take Zero's head and we're going to glue it to the very top of that wire. Okay guys, and that's how I made Zero from Nightmare Before Christmas. I really hope you enjoyed today's project. If so, leave me a like, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and keep an eye out because today is actually not my last Halloween project. I'm going to have one more. I forgot about Jigsaw releasing, and I was like, you know what? I need to make a Jigsaw doll. So that's going to be next project, so keep an eye out for that, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!